everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of the Weekend Binge with Stranger Things Season 1. And ooh, we're in the second half and things are getting crazy. And that being said, this may be a actually relatively short video because while a lot happens in this episode, there's not necessarily much to talk about. But I guess we'll see. I may just be talking crap. Anyway, the cold open. Another lengthy one. Another rather lengthy one. And we pick up right where it left off with Hopper breaking into the lab. And man, if you didn't like Hopper already, or I don't know, maybe just have a vendetta against him for some reason, I mean, he's a stone cold badass. And the way I can't help but describe it is, Hopper is Solid Snake from Metal Gear. This is Hopper breaks into the lab, stealth mode optional. Because he is rather stealthy at first, until he gets caught trying to go through, and you know, he gets stuck at a door that he has to have a key card to get through. He gets 2 guns pulled on him by 2 different people, and Hopper clocks one of them, subdues the other, and takes his card. And again, it's just like stealth mode optional. It's just like, okay, I've been found, time to just break through here. And oh my god, it's so awesome. It's like, I don't want to cover that too much because I assume that pretty much all of you watching this have actually seen it. If you haven't, what are you doing? Go watch this episode. I guess I'm kind of giving away my thoughts on the season overall, aren't I? Probably. Anyway, yeah, just Hopper and his whole thing with this cold open is phenomenal. And in addition to sort of cut away from that, we see Joyce and Lonnie. And it's like, Joyce, because of the grief she's going through, and now just this weird state of mind where she's not sure if maybe she is going crazy, because she knocked that hole through the wall and nothing was there. Like, Will wasn't there, even though he literally had just been there. So she's finding solace in Lonnie, who has seemingly come to comfort her. And Lonnie talks her into drinking. And, you know, lowering her... Well, they don't do anything, so it's not really lowering her inhibitions, but just sort of allowing Lonnie to take control, which... part of me believes he has good intentions, at least at that point. Or at least the good intentions of trying to calm her down. So, yay, Lonnie has, like, you know, one good thing against however many bad. But yeah, it's... it leads to some interesting things that we actually won't be focusing on too much in this video. But... cutting away from that, going back to Hopper, we see him and he finds Eleven's room. He doesn't know it's Eleven's room, it's like, it's some kid's room. Because he finds a drawing, it's like, you know, stick figures, is like, you know, me and Papa. And then from there it cuts back to the boys. So we see the boys and they're trying to... basically, this is how 11 explains to us where Will is. And why. This is how the boys figure out, you know, it's like, actually, maybe Will was at his house the entire time when 11 was leading us there, but it's an alternate universe. So Dustin, it's like they try to explain the upside down, because that's the way that 11 puts it. The upside down. And Dustin and Lucas just aren't getting it. Mike, it seems like he gets it for the most part, but it's then that they sort of utilize Dustin's knowledge or overall knowledge of the Dungeons and Dragons lore, or really just all the boys in general, and they reference the Veil of Shadows, aka a dark reflection of our world. So a reflection. Real world is upside down. The upside down is... or no, wait. our world is right side up. The upside down is obviously, well, upside down. A dark reflection of our world. And that's where, like, I'm sure I've referred to it as the upside down in, like, you know, one of the videos previously at least, but this is where it actually gets that name, and where it's, you know, that's what we call it from now. It's the upside down. And then finally from there, at the end of the cold opening, like, Hop has worked his way through. He's found the area where it's just like, you know, there's all that weird crap flying around, and he finds the gate. It's like, I was calling it a hole in my notes, but it's the gate to the upside down. And just as he finds it, he gets caught, and he gets drugged. And that's where we're going to leave Hop for now. Let's jump over to very briefly, Jonathan, Joyce, and Lonnie. And Jonathan will be doing a little bit jumping around here, but yeah, Jonathan, he goes home and he finds Joyce and Lonnie drinking. Very much drinking, and Jonathan is trying to talk to his mom. It's like, I know what you said is real now. I know you're not crazy, because Nancy saw it too. And I literally just saw it in one of my pictures. But obviously Lonnie is there and can't really talk about that because he just think that, you know, they're all going crazy. But it's at this point that it's clear from her nonverbal expressions and how it's just, she doesn't know what to say. She almost goes catatonic in a way. But Joyce is just doubting everything from that moment on throughout the majority of this episode. And the one thing that finally kicks her out of that just unsure, semi-catatonic state, well, later in the episode she's not so much catatonic, but just like this more subdued, very doubting state, is when she looks into Lonnie's bag and finds I guess it was paperwork, or at least just something having to do with a lawyer and wanting to sue for insurance. And that's why he came, to get the insurance money. And oh, she lays into Lonnie. And, you know, and he tries to come back. It's like trying to make her feel like she's an unfit mother, trying to make it seem like, you know, it's like, well, it wasn't on his, like, it's not his fault that the kid got lost or that the kid's missing. Or I guess at this point that the kid died. But no. God, she's a mama bear. She's a mama bear, and she tells him to get the hell out. Good riddance, because Lonnie is a douche. Bye, Lonnie. You know what? Maybe that'll be the guy version of Bye, Felicia. Bye, Lonnie. Nah, Bye, Felicia has a better ring to it. Anyway, so yeah, that's, for the most part, really all we get from Joyce and, well, especially Lonnie. Because, again, so much of this chapter was Joyce just in this constant internal struggle of, like, you know, is anything real? Is anything that I've been believing actually real? Is Will actually dead? Well, she actually gets that answer here in a few, which we'll cover in a minute. But one thing about the funeral that they attend, while Joyce is still somewhat in that catatonic state, she does have a flashback to, I don't think it was a Christmas, but it just sometime in the past where Joyce was learning from Will about his D&D characters, like, you know, him being a wizard, and just it's just this beautiful moment, and it's through this that we do see that she's starting to doubt. It's like, you know, she's starting to feel this grief that maybe Will really is gone. Maybe he really is dead, because she's remembering this fond, beautiful time between the two of them. And it's like that's just one of many happy memories that are, you know, likely to pop into her head while she's struggling back and forth again with, it's like, you know, is he dead? Is he not? Should I be grieving? I don't know. So I really liked that little scene. It was really sweet. Part of me, I think the first time I saw it, it felt a little bit out of place, but again, on rewatch, I realized that, you know, that moment where she has that flashback, it is part of her starting to go through actual grief, even though she had been struggling against it for so long. But, okay, moving on from there. Ooh, actually, well, the way I have this ordered, Hop is next. So let's talk about Hop and the adventures he has in this episode. So when Hopper comes to, is like, he is out of it. Like, you know, they drugged him up. I don't know if it's just like the shot they gave him or what, really, but he is in a stupor, and he's just going around everywhere. And he's not stupid. He knows that someone took him there. It's not like they wiped his memory or anything. So he immediately starts tearing the place apart, like looking for a wire, because Hop is friggin' smart, and he knows that they don't trust him. I mean, he just broke into their lab, so if they left him here, you know there's going to be a wire so that they can keep tabs on him. He finally does find it after just destroying his house. And well, shortly after, the deputies arrive, and they notice that, you know, something's not okay with Hop. But just being the sort of not exactly authoritative people that they are, it's like, all right, Chief, whatever. But they do say that two guys, Henry and Dale, they went missing. So this is, we have Will that's gone missing, we have Barb that's gone missing, and then Henry and Dale have also disappeared. We don't know, I don't know who Henry and Dale are, but they're mentioned. So, you know, us being the viewers know, okay, well, something has happened, and it's probably the Demogorgon, most likely. And it's at that point that Hop decides, okay, it's like, I need to figure this out, I need to take care of it. But it's like he's still very much out of it. So what transpires further over the episode is like find out that, or we see that he calls his ex-wife, which that's a scene that I still somewhat question. I'm not entirely sure why he did it. I don't know if it was sort of him just wanting to talk to her, because he really did just miss her voice. But when he hears like a baby in the background, it's like, you know, his wife has moved on. She has a family now. It's like you see, like, the expression on his face changes. It's like, you know, he was trying to be reminiscent, he was trying to be nostalgic, and then all of a sudden it's just like, that's not my life anymore. And then he, like, it's in that moment he makes the decision. He hangs up the phone. And apparently his ex does try to call him back, but he very angrily smashes the phone, or at least kind of hangs it up or whatever. I'm not entirely sure what that did other than make a loud noise. But it's from there that Hopper, like, having recovered from what he went through, finds Joyce and talks to her. And he tells her the most important things of that entire episode. The most important thing that she could possibly hear. You were right about everything. And that's just another one of those moments where the chills take over your body. And it's just like, this is another moment where, like, you know, the storylines are converging. Like, the characters are coming together. Whereas it's like, Hopper, it's like, he knew that she wasn't crazy for quite a while. But because of what he's been going through, you know, he hadn't been able to say it until that point. But, yeah, it's like, something messed up is going on. Will is still alive. They've been getting lied to. And she was right the whole time. I love it. But moving on from there to further things of craziness in this episode. The boys. The boys who, they know Will's alive. They have an idea of where the Demogorgon is, where Will is, the Upside Down. And it's after the funeral that it's sort of during, but also after the funeral, that we actually do get some focus on the boys, the kids, really. But anyway, when they're approached by Mr. Clark, it's just like, we're in mourning. Yeah, but I mean, it's like they're not subtle at all, but I mean, they're kids, so that's easily just kind of, you know, from an adult's perspective, just kind of like, well, they are actually mourning, but they just don't know how to express it properly. I mean, you know, that's the perspective I assume is being taken. But it's also in this moment that, I mean, I love Mr. Clark, their teacher. He is just super supportive. He's a really cool teacher. It's like, you know, a lot of people would find him to just be super nerdy and probably wouldn't care for him in real life, but honest to God, he seems like one of the absolute most amazing teachers that there could ever be. And also, he's a huge nerd. He's a huge nerd! Like, he's just, like, he's talking about these, you know, scientific things with the boys, and then they bring up the idea of the, what was it, the dark veil? The veil of shadows, and he's just like, oh yeah, this and this. And from there, he goes into this somewhat scientific explanation, or I guess actually scientific explanation, of how one might go, if it were real, like, you know, just saying, like, you know, it's not really real, but if it was, how would you get there? And he goes into the metaphor of the flea and the acrobat, and I'm not even going to attempt to, you know, reconstruct that. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen the episode. And I love Mr. Clark. I was terrified for him at a point in this season that, you know, will be coming up, but I love him. And I hope we see more of him in the second season. I really do. And I also hope that whatever happens in the second season, he doesn't die. I'll be very miffed. I'll be very cross. Anyway. So, the boys go to 11 and try to explain, you know, what's going on, what they learned. And they're trying to figure out, it's like, okay, so a rift has been opened. It's like, you know, there is a gate, possibly. Where would it be? And it's at that point that Dustin further shows that he's a friggin' genius. Don't at me, he's a genius. When he shows the compasses, he's just like, okay, something is very wrong here. These compasses aren't working right. And Mr. Clark had been telling them that one of the things about the rift is like it would cause massive, electromagnetic activity. And because of that, that means that the compasses are no longer pointing to a polar north, as Dustin points out, but they're pointing to something. What is that something? The gate. And again, he's just a little genius. And they start trekking out and they start heading toward the gate, which, you know, obviously that's leading them to the lab. The boys don't really know that, but 11 does. It's clear that she does, because she's acting really strangely. The boys even point out, it's like, you know, she's acting a little weird. They just wonder if she's not feeling well. And she does something that it understandably upsets the boys. It's like they feel betrayed. Primarily Lucas. Really, for the most part, Lucas is the one that gets angry. But it's like she messes with the compasses and tries to steer them back home because she wants to try and keep them safe. But all all Lucas really sees is just she is lying to them again. Which this may be a bit of an annoyance I have. And it's this idea that despite the fact that they have been shown time and time again that when they think that 11 is lying. She's not. It's just Lucas immediately goes to this place of, you know, you are a bad person. He hates 11 a lot, and so just like it's almost like any excuse to yell at her, any excuse to get on her case, he'll take it. And unfortunately that does lead to a fight between Mike and Lucas, and 11 goes a bit too far and tries to stop them, but in the process also kind of knocks Lucas unconscious by force pushing him into, I think it's like a metal beam or just like an aluminum sheet basically. Whatever it is, he's knocked out cold. And that's not okay. I mean, it's clearly not okay that she did that. And it's at that point that Lucas just storms off. He storms off, and once again, just like the team as a whole is just kind of torn apart. They don't know what to do. And unlike, you know, previous times when they've had the falling out, in addition to Lucas storming off, scared, understandably, 11 disappears too. She just goes off, and both Mike and Dustin don't know where she is. So more on them in the upcoming episode. But finally, the last bit, and it's Nancy and Jonathan. And after the funeral, it's like they're sitting together and they're talking about what they see on the picture. And they actually have a map that's showing where like things have occurred, where someone has been taken. So they get an idea that, yes, it's within those woods near, it's in the woods near Steve's house where, you know, the activity is occurring. And, well, near Jonathan and Joyce's house too. So they decide, we're going to kill it. We're going to kill it. And what we see, what transpires after that, it's both adorable, but also just, it's a lot of character development on both the parts of Nancy and Jonathan, in my opinion. Nancy, we see her with a baseball bat, like swinging, not very effectively, admittedly, but swinging the bat, and Steve shows up, and she, in not so many words, or well, more words, she basically tells him to go away. She doesn't tell him the truth. She doesn't necessarily lie to him. Well, no, yeah, she does lie, because she says it's like, you know, my brother, got to be there for him and just everything that's going on. So she does lie to him. But it's also because, not necessarily that she's trying to protect him, but she doesn't want him getting in the way, because this is a mission for her and Jonathan, the two people who know what's going on. And because Steve wouldn't believe it, he would think she's going crazy if she even began to explain this to him. So after that, we see Jonathan out practicing with the gun that he found, and I don't know if that was in actually Jonathan's car or if it was in Lonnie's car where he got the gun out of. Not entirely sure, but regardless, like, he has the gun, he's aiming with it, and he can't aim very good. He's not very accurate. And then Nancy comes along, and like she looked awkward with the bat, but with the gun, good God, she shoots a bottle first shot. She's a badass. And then, well, they make their way into the woods, and they come clean with each other, shall we say. They open up about their frustrations with one another. Nancy talking about how she thought that, you know, maybe he wasn't really as weird as everyone thinks, and, you know, he was thinking maybe she's not just this little goody two-shoes who's pretending to rebel against her parents, and, you know, just not a falling out necessarily, but again, they come clean, and tensions are high. shortly after that, they hear a noise, and it's this wounded deer. And it leads to just this amazing jump scare that you do kind of see it coming, but it's like, you know, the deer is suffering, so it's like, well, you know, we got to put it out of its misery. So Jonathan's aiming the gun, and while hanging on it a while, so you question whether or not Jonathan is actually going to shoot it, all of a sudden, it's taken away, and we hear this loud snarl, and it's just like, what the hell? Obviously the Demogorgon. And while they're searching, while they're trying to find where it went, because they know it was the monster that they're looking for, Nancy finds a hole in a tree. And she finds her way into the Upside Down. And she meets the Demogorgon. And that's where we're left. And even if some of the things in the middle can be a bit slow at times, it really depends on your mileage and your preference with this show. The endings are always such amazing hooks. Just such great hooks that it's the kind of thing where if this was a show where like an episode came out every week, I would be pissed at the end of every episode. Thankfully with Netflix, you don't have to wait unless, like, you know, you just need to stop watching for some reason. But oh my god, just the way they leave that off with Nancy being stuck in the Upside Down with the Demogorgon. It's so good. It's so good. So yeah, again, it's like, you know, we get more character development. So Nancy and Jonathan are they're figuring things out about each other. I guess that's one way to put it. Like, you know, deciding whether or not they actually do like each other. It's an uneasy not ally, that's not even a real word. It's an uneasy partnership, shall we say, between them. But again, it's like, you know, more about these characters is being shown, and it only continues to do so, especially as, you know, we want to find out, is Lucas going to stop being a jerk? Is 11 going to apologize for almost kind of killing Lucas? What's going to go on? Or, no, what's going to happen? That's a better way of putting it. I don't know what I'm saying sometimes. But, yeah, just this episode, oh my god. I really do wish that I had actually been doing these videos after watching each episode. So this is a work in progress, but everyone, please do leave your thoughts on this episode in the comments down below. Let me know some of your favorite parts, anything that I didn't mention. Let me know anything that really bothered you about this episode, because I don't think I really had any annoyances this episode. Like, overall, story-wise, this was a good, solid episode. Nothing really to complain about. Is even Steve, it's like the one thing that I possibly could have complained about was Steve, but, you know, instead of whining and complaining and, you know, trying to keep Nancy around, it's like, you know, to go and hang out with him, it's like he goes. He goes away when she asks him to. Again, given she lies about what's going on, but he goes. So I didn't even have an annoyance with him. So, yeah. Possibly the best batting record for an episode yet. But, again, just let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you want to see my overall thoughts on this season, go ahead and click here to skip to the final video in this playlist. Or, if you can click here to go to the next episode. Or, again, if you're watching this on a playlist, you can wait just a few more seconds and you'll be going to it. So prepare for episode 6. Now.